It's strange how a normal Saturday night can turn into something you spend months trying to understand. When people hear late night party story, they usually think of drunk friends or stupid drama, not something that makes you look over your shoulder every time you walk outside. My name's Ryan, and this happened last fall during my sophomore year. I wasn't planning on going out that night. I just finished a long shift at the campus rec center, and all I wanted was to lie face down on my bed and sleep for 12 hours. But my roommate, Jake, had other plans. At 11:16 p.m., he barged into our room, already dressed like he had somewhere important to be. "Dude, Maya's having a party. She texted me, you're coming." I tried to argue, but Jake has this annoying way of making everything sound like it'll be the best decision of your life. And honestly, part of me didn't want to be the boring guy staying in on a Saturday night. So 30 minutes later, we were walking down Elm Street toward Maya's old rental house, the one everyone called the lighthouse, because the porch light was always flickering like a broken beacon. The place was loud before we even reached the steps. Bass thumped through the wooden floorboards, people's voices spilled out onto the lawn, and laughter drifted from somewhere inside. Maya's place always had this warm, chaotic energy, like you could walk in stressed and walk out feeling lighter. At least, that's how it used to feel. The night started harmless enough. The living room was crowded with familiar faces. People from my psych class, a couple of athletes, a girl trying to teach two guys how to dance on beat. The kitchen was even louder, with someone blasting a playlist from a speaker way too small for the noise it was producing. Jake disappeared instantly, swallowed into a conversation about football and midterms. I drifted between groups, sipping a cheap beer someone handed me, trying to convince myself I was having fun. Nothing felt wrong yet. Just another college party with too many people and not enough functioning lights. That changed when someone suggested going up to the roof. Maya's house had one of those flat rooftops that students treated like a bonus backyard. The only way up was a narrow stairwell beside the laundry room, a place that always smelled like detergent and old wood. A handful of us climbed up, and suddenly the noise level dropped. The cold air felt crisp, almost refreshing. Someone set up a small Bluetooth speaker, and the music became more mellow. The kind of vibe where people sat in little circles talking about random life problems and pretending they were deep. That's when he showed up. A guy none of us recognized. He came up the stairwell slow, like he wasn't sure if he should be there. He wore a dark jacket with the hood pulled up and a cap underneath. The whole outfit looked like he didn't want anyone remembering his face. When he reached the roof, he gave this awkward half wave and said, "I'm Matt." No one questioned him. That's how parties are. If someone acts confident enough, people assume they belong. He sat down with us, accepted the drink someone offered, and blended in way too easily. But something felt off about him, like he was watching everyone just a little too closely. At one point, I caught him staring at me, not a quick glance, more like he was studying me. I forced myself to look away. I didn't want to seem paranoid. Around 1 a.m., groups started drifting off the roof, some going home, some going to the kitchen for snacks. Jake said he needed to use the bathroom and headed downstairs. I followed a few minutes later, thinking I'd grab water. As I passed the laundry room, something caught my eye. A black backpack sitting on the stair landing, not tucked neatly, more like dropped. I stopped. I'd never seen it before. The house was cramped and old, so any extra object stood out. I nudged it with my foot. Something inside shifted, soft, like clothing, or maybe something else. I don't know what possessed me to pick it up, but I did. Maybe I thought it belonged to someone upstairs. Maybe I just didn't want someone tripping over it. I carried it back toward the roof, and halfway up the stairs, I felt a vibration inside, like a phone buzzing. When I unzipped the front pocket, I found a cracked phone screen lighting up with an incoming call. The name said, Maya. Assuming it was hers, I answered. "Hello?" I said. A female voice spoke, slightly muffled, almost like she was calling through a bad speaker. "Hey, are you at Maya's place? I left my backpack there earlier." black one? Can you bring it outside?" Something about the call seemed rushed, nervous. I told her I had the bag, and she said she was parked 2 blocks away. She asked if I could meet her at the front gate. I said yes, without thinking. I walked outside, backpack in hand, expecting to see someone standing under the porch light. No one was there. The neighborhood was mostly quiet except for distant party noise and one car driving slowly down the road. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the cracked phone. "I'm almost there. Please wait." A minute later, a dark sedan rolled up. It came to a stop directly in front of the house. The driver rolled down the passenger window. He was a man, mid-30s maybe, plain face, blank expression. "You got my backpack?" he asked. Not "thank you," not "sorry for the trouble," just that. The voice didn't match the caller's voice at all. I didn't hand it over. Something in me refused. "Is this yours?" I asked. He nodded, but his eyes were wrong. Too calm, too focused on me, like he was waiting for a mistake. My phone vibrated, a text from Jake. "Where are you?" I typed back quickly. "Outside. Some guy wants this backpack." Jake. "Dude, don't give that to him. Come inside." When I didn't move, the man leaned a little closer. "Hand it over," he repeated. Something in his tone made my skin crawl. Like he wasn't asking, he was telling. Suddenly, Maya's neighbor stepped out onto her porch and yelled, "Everything good out there?" The man didn't answer her. He just gave me one last look, something cold and irritated, and pulled away from the curb. I walked back inside fast, heart pounding. On the roof, I handed the backpack to Maya, telling her someone dropped it. She assumed it belonged to one of her friends. I didn't argue. I didn't want to overthink what just happened. But the night wasn't done being weird. Around 3 a.m., as the party wound down, I walked through the living room where a girl named Kelsey was scrolling her phone with a pale expression. She looked up at me and asked quietly, "Did you see a dark car outside tonight?" I nodded. "Why?" She turned her phone so I could see the messages. Random DMs from an unknown account. "I see you. Nice jacket. Heading home soon?" She said the messages started around the same time that car pulled up. Another girl overheard us and said she got weird messages too. A third said the same. Someone joked that it was just trolls, but no one laughed. The mood in the house shifted. People started checking windows, locking doors, suddenly aware of noises they hadn't noticed before. By morning, most of us had convinced ourselves it was coincidence, just drunk paranoia mixed with weird messages, until the next night. At 1:52 a.m., our group chat blew up. It was Maya. She wrote, "Did anyone else get this?" She posted a screenshot, a message from the same unknown account. "Saw you leave the house. Pretty place." Others started responding. I got one saying, "I know where you live." Mine said outside. Mine said, "Thought you'd go home earlier." Fear spread through the chat like wildfire. People started asking if they should call campus police. Someone said they saw a car parked across the street from their dorm earlier. None of us slept. The next day, campus police sent out a vague warning about suspicious vehicle activity near student housing. No names, no details, just enough to confirm that something was actually happening. Over the next week, more weird incidents followed. Tara, a girl from the party, found a note wedged under her dorm door. It didn't have handwriting, just printed letters that said, "Be careful walking alone." A guy from the basketball team reported seeing a dark sedan following him back from the library. And remember that backpack? When Maya finally looked through it, she found no wallet, no ID, just clothes, a cracked phone, and dozens of photos, all taken at night. All of random streets, houses, and parked cars around our campus. Some of them had people in them, walking home, entering buildings, standing by windows, totally unaware they were being photographed. None of the faces were clear. But one thing stood out, the timestamps. Almost all of them were from the last month, and at least 3 were taken on the night of the party. One of them, a blurry shot, looked almost exactly like the road outside Maya's house. To this day, no one knows who Matt was. No one knows who the caller was, or who the man in the car really wanted. Campus police said the car was never found. Maya stopped throwing big parties. Jake and I stopped going out late unless we were in a group. And even now, when I walk home at night, headlights passing behind me make my chest tighten for a second. Because sometimes the scariest part of a story isn't what happened. It's realizing how close you came to something worse. I used to think college parties were harmless, loud, stupid, chaotic, and occasionally regrettable, but harmless. What happened last semester changed that for me. It still feels unreal sometimes, like I exaggerated parts of it in my memory, but every time I try to sleep with the lights off, I remember that night exactly as it happened. My name's Tyler, and this took place during my junior year at Ridgeview University. It was late October, around the time campus gets colder, but still pretends it's warm enough for outdoor parties. My friend group had been invited to a big off-campus house party thrown by this senior named Lucas. His parties were notoriously packed. Cheap drinks, loud music, and random people from all corners of campus. I didn't want to go at first. I had an exam on Monday, and honestly, I'm not a huge party guy anymore. But my friend Ethan was relentless. "Bro, it's the last big one before Thanksgiving break. Don't be lame," he said, already holding out a jacket for me, like the decision was made. I should have stayed in. We got to Lucas's place around 11:40 p.m. The house was massive, old faded brick, big yard, long porch, the kind of place that had probably been passed down through 5 generations of college kids. You could hear the bass thumping from halfway down the street. Cars lined both sides of the road. People were laughing, stumbling, hyped, already drunk. Nothing felt wrong yet. It was just another Saturday night at Ridgeview. Inside, though, something felt off. I don't know how to explain it. The music was loud, the air hot and sweaty, the lights dim. But the vibe was weird. People weren't as carefree as usual. Some faces looked tense, distracted. One guy near the door kept checking the front window like he was expecting someone. I overheard a girl whisper to her friend, "Did you hear about the text?" But before I could ask anything, Ethan shoved a cup into my hand and dragged me deeper into the house. Lucas greeted everyone with his usual chaotic energy, jumping around, yelling, laughing. And for a while, everything felt normal. We moved between rooms, met new people, talked about nothing important, but the strange tension didn't go away. Around 12:30, I stepped outside onto the back deck to get some air. That's when I first noticed him. A man standing near the fence. Not a student. At least, he didn't look like one. He was older, late 30s maybe, wearing a dark coat, just standing there in the shadows. Not moving, not talking, just watching the house. I told myself he was probably just waiting for someone. But the way he stared made me uncomfortable enough to go back inside. A few minutes later, I noticed him through the living room window. Same position, same stare. I tried to point him out to Ethan, but he shrugged it off. Probably just some neighbor making sure we don't trample their lawn. I tried to accept that, but the unease stayed. It got worse when the house lights flickered around 1:10 a.m., like a sudden power dip. Just for a second, but enough to make a few people glance around nervously. That's when the messages started. It began with a girl on the couch freaking out about a text she received. "Who the hell is this?" she said, showing her phone to her friend. Then another guy said, "Wait, I just got one too." Then another. People were pulling out their phones everywhere, confused, whispering. I opened mine. Unknown number. One message. "You all look so alive tonight." I thought it was a prank at first. Then another message came through immediately. "Especially you. Blue shirt." I was wearing a blue shirt. I felt my stomach drop. I looked around the room trying to see if someone was watching me, but everyone was focused on their own phones now. The vibe in the entire house shifted. The music suddenly felt too loud, the lights too dim, the walls too close. Ethan's phone buzzed too. "What the... dude?" he said, showing me. His message said, "Don't leave the house alone." We decided to find Lucas to tell him what was happening. We found him in the kitchen, looking stressed and pacing. Before we could speak, he said, "Yeah, I know. Half the people here are getting the same number. I blocked it. It keeps texting anyway." He showed us his phone, even blocked the messages were coming through. "I'm watching. The basement door is open. Someone should check the hallway. No one is safe alone." It didn't feel like a prank anymore. Around 1:30, someone screamed from upstairs. The music cut instantly. People rushed toward the staircase. A girl stood at the top, shaking and crying, pointing down the hall. "Someone's in the house," she kept saying. "He was standing right there." A few guys ran down the hallway but came back shaking their heads. No one there. She insisted she saw a man, tall, wearing dark clothes, standing at the end of the hall before the lights flickered again. And that's when the basement door slammed shut. Everyone heard it. The kind of slam that echoes through an old house. Someone yelled, "Who's down there?" But no one answered. People were panicking now. The front door was blocked by a crowd trying to leave. Lucas was on the phone with campus police, yelling into the receiver. I stuck close to Ethan. My whole body was tense, adrenaline kicking in. Then more messages. "Don't leave yet. I haven't chosen. Basement smells like fear." Someone shouted from the living room. "The guy at the fence, he's gone." I didn't want to check, but I did. I looked out the porch window. The yard was empty. That somehow made it worse. A sudden pounding hit the front door, hard, rapid, aggressive. People screamed and backed away. Then the back door started rattling too, like someone was testing it, checking the lock. There were no words spoken, just deliberate, slow attempts at turning the knob. Someone started crying. Someone else yelled to turn off the music and lock every window. For a minute, the entire house fell silent, except for the rattling doorknobs and muffled footsteps outside. Police sirens finally echoed in the distance. The second they got close, all the noises stopped. The house went dead silent. When officers showed up, they found footprints in the backyard. Heavy prints leading toward the woods behind the house. They found nothing in the basement, nothing in the hallways, nothing around the property. But dozens of people showed police the messages, all from the same number, all sent within the same hour. The number was untraceable, not registered to any carrier, not connected to any SIM card, completely unidentifiable. The cops told us it might have been a spoofing app, but even they didn't sound confident. The scariest part? The girl who screamed, the one who saw the man upstairs. She described him in detail. Tall, slim, dark coat, pale face, hood up. When she described him, my heart nearly stopped, because it matched exactly the guy I saw earlier standing by the fence. And here's the part I still struggle with. When everyone left and the police finally cleared out, Ethan and I were about to head home when I checked my phone one last time. One new message, sent at 3:07 a.m. "I was closest to you." I never answered. I changed my number the next morning. I switched dorm buildings. I stopped going to large parties altogether. And the thing that keeps me up sometimes is knowing this. He was inside the house at some point. Multiple people saw or heard him, but no one ever saw him leave. I never thought a simple late-night party with my friends would give me something I still can't talk about without my hands shaking. And what happened to me last fall is something I wouldn't wish on anybody. Even now, months later, I still can't stand loud music or the sound of someone knocking on a door after midnight. People think parties are harmless fun. Loud music, cheap drinks, some laughs, maybe some stupid decisions you regret in the morning. But what I experienced that night wasn't just a bad time. It wasn't just a scare. It was something that followed me home, and something I'm still not sure ever really left. It was early September when it all started. My friend group had been planning this big end-of-summer party before college classes got serious again. It wasn't supposed to be anything insane, just 20 or 30 people, maybe more if word spread. My friend Mason had access to this old rental house his uncle owned, a place he was renovating. It sat right outside of town, tucked behind some trees and a long gravel driveway. Honestly, it looked like the kind of place you'd see in a horror movie, but we were young, broke, and desperate for somewhere free to party, so none of us cared. The house was basically empty on the inside, except for a few dusty couches, old cabinets, and a kitchen table that looked like it hadn't been moved in 20 years. But it had power, running water, and most importantly, no neighbors. The perfect combination for a loud night. People started showing up around 10. The music was blasting. The kitchen counter was already covered in bottles, and everyone was dancing, laughing, doing stupid things that would have gotten us all kicked out of any normal place. I wasn't even drinking much. I had a beer in my hand, but mostly stuck to water because I had work early the next morning. My plan was to hang out for a couple hours, then head home around 1. That didn't happen. Sometime around midnight, when the party was at its loudest, the music suddenly cut out. At first, everyone groaned, thinking the speaker died or someone unplugged something. But then we heard the sound, this loud banging coming from the front door. It wasn't like someone knocking to be let in. It was hard, heavy, almost angry, like someone was hitting the door with the side of their fist over and over. People laughed at first, shouting stuff like, "Who locked someone out?" or "Let them in." A few guys went to check, assuming it was a drunk friend who wandered outside or someone arriving late. But a minute later, the door opened and nobody stepped inside. One of the guys, Eric, leaned out, looked around, and yelled, "Hello?" No one answered. The driveway was empty. The trees surrounding the house were still. No cars pulling in, no headlights. He shut the door and locked it. "Probably someone messing with us," he said. Everyone shrugged it off and the music started again. Or at least, the guys tried to start it. The speaker wouldn't connect. The Bluetooth kept disconnecting, and every time someone paired their phone, it would immediately unpair again. Eventually, Mason just said screw it, and we blasted music straight from someone's phone. But that knocking, that was just the beginning. It happened again about 20 minutes later, this time louder. And this time, I swear, it wasn't at the front door. It came from the back. I was standing in the kitchen when it happened, and the door behind me rattled like someone slammed their entire body against it. Everyone in the kitchen froze. My buddy Dave, who was next to me, whispered, "Dude, someone's messing with us. They must have parked down the road or something." But when Mason and 2 guys went outside with their phone flashlights, they didn't see anyone. They circled the whole house, the driveway, even the woods on the edge of the property. Nobody, no footprints in the dirt, no broken branches, nothing. People were still laughing it off, but less than before. Something about the second knock was different. The first one sounded normal, like a person. The second one sounded wrong, too heavy, too forceful, like someone was hitting the door with both fists at the same time. We tried to shake it off, but the energy in the house shifted. People weren't as loud anymore. Some moved closer to their own friends. A couple of girls whispered to each other with these nervous looks. I decided I'd leave earlier than planned. I wasn't scared exactly, just uncomfortable. But when I mentioned heading out, Mason stopped me. "Dude, don't go yet. Something's weird outside. Just wait a bit." I didn't argue. Another 20 minutes passed. People kept partying, but it felt half-hearted. Then the power went out, all at once. Music, lights, everything. Pitch black except for the glow of dozens of phones lighting up at the same time. A few girls screamed. Someone dropped a bottle. I heard it shatter on the floor. "Relax, it's probably just the breaker," someone shouted. But before anyone could check, we heard it. The sound came from upstairs. Slow, heavy footsteps. One step, then another, then another. The house went dead quiet. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Mason whispered, "Who the hell went upstairs?" But we all knew the answer. No one. The upstairs had been blocked off because the floorboards were unstable. We'd put a piece of tape across the bottom of the staircase earlier that night to stop people from going up. Every single person at the party was on the ground floor. And yet, someone was walking up there. Or something. The footsteps continued, slow and deliberate, moving from one side of the upstairs hallway to the other. Someone near me whispered, "Maybe someone snuck in?" But that didn't make sense. We'd been in the house the whole time. We would have seen someone. Then the footsteps stopped, right above us, right above the living room where at least 15 people were standing. Nobody said a word. The silence was worse than the noise. Then, suddenly, something came crashing down from above. It sounded like a dresser tipping over and slamming into the floor. People screamed and backed up. Someone yelled, "Call the cops!" But when multiple people tried, none of their phones had service. Not a single bar. I checked mine. Nothing. "We need to leave," I said, and others agreed. We moved toward the front door, but before we could reach it, we heard loud, rapid footsteps rushing down the stairs. Not slow this time. Fast. Too fast. Like something on all fours sprinting straight toward the first floor. I've never heard anything like it. People bolted toward the nearest exit, some to the front door, some through the kitchen toward the back door. I grabbed the front door handle and yanked it open. But something was standing in the doorway. A figure. Tall. Completely still. No face I could make out. Just a shape, like a person, but not quite right. Its shoulders were too broad, its posture too stiff, and its head hung just slightly to the left like it was broken. I froze. Every instinct in my body told me not to move. It didn't step forward. It didn't reach out. It just stood there, blocking the exit, its silhouette framed by the faint moonlight behind it. Behind me, someone screamed, "Go out the back!" People ran toward the kitchen. I stumbled backward as the figure slowly tilted its head even further, like it was studying me. Then it stepped inside. One slow step. That broke whatever paralysis I was in. I turned and sprinted toward the back of the house. The hallway was chaos. People pushing, tripping, crying. The back door was already open, and I saw bodies pouring out into the yard, running toward the driveway. I reached the door, but as I stepped outside, I heard something large slam into the wall behind me. I didn't look back. I just ran. Everyone ran. Some people didn't even grab their keys. A girl lost her shoe. Someone else dropped their phone. We didn't care. When we reached the end of the driveway, we realized the cars were blocked. Every single car had all 4 tires slashed. Some had their hoods dented like someone had jumped on them. Nobody knew when it happened. Nobody heard anything. Someone shouted, "We have to run back to the road." And that's exactly what we did. A group of 20 college kids sprinting down a dark, rural driveway, terrified out of our minds. When we finally made it to the main road, finally got service, someone called the police. They didn't believe half of what we said, but they agreed to send officers. We waited, terrified, until the first patrol car arrived. But when the officers searched the property, nothing was there. The house was empty, no footprints, no signs of forced entry. The upstairs furniture was untouched. Even the tire marks and dents we saw earlier, gone. They said maybe we were drunk, hallucinating, or panicking over nothing. But we know what we saw. We know what we heard. And the worst part? Later that week, Mason told us something that still makes my skin crawl. His uncle, the owner of the house, never authorized anyone to be there. The place wasn't being renovated. It wasn't being shown to buyers. He hadn't set foot inside in months. And that tape we put across the stairs at the start of the night? Mason said when he returned the next day with his uncle, the tape wasn't on the floor where we left it. It was stuck to the ceiling above the staircase, like something tall had reached up and pressed it there. I haven't been to a party since. Not one. And I don't think I ever will again. Because whatever we saw in that house, I don't think it was human. And sometimes at night, when everything's quiet, I swear I still hear those footsteps overhead.